All right, everybody. So, just wanted to give a breakdown of this Simic Crab deck that I plan on bringing to DC. And I have to LCQ win, but I do think after playing around 100 matches this weekend and looking at all the results from the showcase and the various RCs, I have a feeling that this is the best way to go about playing the deck. I'm not big on Elusive Otter. I think that card is pretty exploitable, and it's kind of an anemic one drop in a format that's gotten progressively more hostile to these one mana cards that don't do anything, that don't come with any built in resistance. And stat lines are pretty important right now. And also I think in the mirror, you're extremely exploitable if your opponent just goes slightly bigger. I don't think it's hard for them to take advantage of your otters. So I do believe that playing some number of Eddie Crabs are pretty important. I think Color Storm Stallion, especially on the play, is uniquely strong. I think that this build also takes advantage of the fact that a lot of people are prepared for quote unquote prowess, and they hear prowess and they just think that, oh, that must mean small little creature deck that I can kill. Whereas this deck actually has the ability to go quite large with these 5/5s for 2 and Color Storm Stallion, which can close the deck pretty fast, as long as, of course, using Slick Shot Show Off. I just want to go over the card choices. I think this, if you're playing blue-red, this is the best mana base. I think one Storm card coast is pretty good, especially with the sideboard cards, Multiversal Passage. There's a way when you need early red, which often you do, and that's sometimes the hardest card to the color to get, especially if you're trying to cast Slag Storm. I think these are 7 islands for those who hate the oil slicks. And so 21 lands like this. Basically, earlier in the week, I kind of came to this after playing a bunch of different decks. I tried Momo, I tried Prison, I tried Excruciator, I played Control last time, and I think that Control is still actually a decent. Like it's actually a decent choice. I don't think that's the. I think everybody's just assuming that the deck will be bad because everyone thinks it'll be good, and so it's like this. I think it's creating kind of a paradox, and I think the deck is. I wouldn't sleep on that deck. I still think it's pretty good. But I was playing against people and just like realized that like this card is genuinely kind of broken, especially when there aren't any premier aggro decks that are like mono red that are gonna like take advantage of you spending time to cast an expressive iteration. And I was losing games that I had like 3 to 5 removal spells in my hand, and my opponents were just casting flow states, and like with they were kicked or whatever you want to call it, they were maxed out, and I was basically just getting buried and like getting out controlled by this blue red deck. And I kind of came to a realization that you can build this deck that it can definitely have aggro draws, but it could also play as long of a game as it needs to. You kind of have all the tools you need to play anywhere between a 4 to 15 turn game. And I think that this card is kind of the facilitator for this. It's like what made a prowess deck good when it was kind of bad before, and I think this card is kind of busted. So I came to the thought where I wanted to play 4 of Opt, Storm Chaser's Talent, Sleight of Hand, Boomerang Basics, Burst Lightning, Slick Shot Show Off, and Flow State. So that's 28 cards, and then it was about figuring out the rest. So I tried a bunch of different configurations, and I think that this build has the ability to be aggressive with built-in haste creatures, not needing to play Wild Ride to gain haste for Color Storm Stallion, so you can get damage. And also Eddie Crab has pseudo haste, but being able to flash it in on the end step. So these cards all kind of can just create damage at the last possible second. And I think that that's a pretty good way to go about it. That we don't have to play Wild Ride, and you could spend more slots focusing on interaction. In Practical Joke, I'll get to these octopus forms in a second. There was kind of a big talking point in the cord recently, but Practical Joke is an answer to opposing Color Storm Stallions, where most people will just like play them out on turn 3, and you have pretty good reason to just play this card because it doesn't die to most things, and if you untap with it, it's gonna win all combat against these other otters, and it'll pretty much force damage through no matter what. But also this card kills Drake Hatcher, kills Voice of Victory, kills Ang, Swift Savior, Sky Coach Conductor, which are all kind of very annoying cards because the thought of trying to kill those with a kicked Burst Lightning is pretty bad. And with that in mind, that's also why I added the Vibrant Outburst. Vibrant Outburst being able to, honestly, this card's kind of a Swiss Army knife. It's kind of like an extra Eddie Merc Crab, but also can be burned to the face. A lot of games do come down to get this like early chip damage, and then you could burn out. Vibrant Outburst is pretty good, but also being able to like cleanly answer a Sage of Disguise, which is another card in Practical Joke answers. Like one copy, like one half of, and then you can deal with the 2/3. You can get the cards back with Flow State. Vibrant Outburst has been pretty good to just be, kind of a nice utility. One Spell Pierce, really good in the mirror. It's just it's Spell Pierce. It's most of these decks are playing low creature counts right now, and make Spell Pierce just that much better. It's in a really good spot. The Get Out and the Roaring Furnace, another way to kill like larger creatures, especially Colorstorm Stallion or that. And Get Out's just some nice value. It's like the fifth Boomerang basics. I think once you go a little bit too deep on these cards, you end up being in these awkward positions where you don't necessarily have the right things to do with them. You're just kind of hoping they'll pick their spots, and you don't really want to draw the second copy of either of these, but the first one's always pretty good, especially if you use like Get Out and Talent to like, lock out opposing Hearth Elementals, things like that. Now the Octopus form, so originally these were the secret identities that everyone else plays, but Octopus form has a lot of unique utility since a lot of the best performing prowess lists were all crab decks. So +1/+1 and gaining hexproof and untapping your creature, all three of those are just awesome modes in the mirror. Your Eddie Merc Crab will beat their Eddie Merc Crab in combat. Colorstorm Stallion, when they go to pay, gives like it untaps it too. Usually it's like they attacked and then they try to sear your guy and get some damage, and it's like I'm gonna like untap my 5/5. It's just really strong. Where since your creatures are already large, I don't think you want the thing to make your guy a 1/1. Like I don't want my horse to be a hexproof 2/2. I want my horse to be a hexproof 5/5. That way, because a lot of games come down to just otters swinging past each other, and having a card that blocks is really good. So this was Rebel had mentioned this that Frowning Table was playing this card, and I think it's actually really good. It might be the secret sauce over a secret identity in this build particularly. Obviously, if you're playing Drake and Otter, you'd still want the ability to go 3/4 flyer with reveal on secret identity. But I think that this card it is impressed very well. And yeah, having two of these, because a lot of games do come down to you just want to use your flow stage, draw a bunch of cards, and then set up a position where you have Slick Shot show off and you can protect it with your 2 dispels. So I think that it's a pretty good idea to have these two. Onto the sideboard, I definitely have found that I want 4 counterspells. Because the matchups were like, I just want to use my Spell Pierces early. So like having 3 Spell Pierces, which is an idea I got from Jarvis. The 3 Spell Pierces, just countering Tablet, countering a Flow State just early, just keep countering Prismari Charm. Just like keeping decks from doing their thing, and then you could take advantage of your aggression and your ability to draw cards. Ghost Vacuum is pretty just a solid card at the moment. I think it's pretty good in the mirror. Just to keep people off of being able to draw 2 with Flow State, and also it's like you keep your Spell Elemental's opponent like just slow enough that like once you can get the game to a spot where you're crabbing, your crabs have a little more value than theirs do, because you have ways to kind of enhance them, whereas they're just trying to attack for 5. Then I have like a large suite of anti-creature cards. I think the Floodmaw is really good, especially if people are still playing green. Slagstorm is hard to cast for sure, but it's so critical to be able to kill all the cards out of prison with 1 card, especially when you're under High Noon. You kind of need to be able to get through that. Broadside Barrage, being able to kill opposing Eddie Merc Crabs, being able to kill like Hearth Elemental, Thunderflock, these are all pretty important things. Broadside Barrage is a good card. The extra Impractical Joke and Vibrant Outburst when needed. Going up to the full 4 crabs in a lot of matchups, pretty good. Most people are not going to bring in things like Rest in Peace, and if they do, obviously you can adjust, and that's why I've added a couple of extra threats to the board here. The 3rd Stallion, when it's really good against like Rest in Peace, High Noon, and Ral Crackling Wit, really strong in the mirror. Ral's just kind of... I think Ral's still pretty good. I tried Legend of Kuruk for a while, but I kind of was like, I want cards that attack, right? I think Legend of Kuruk is better in Spell Elementals, where they're willing to take a little bit longer before attacking. All of my like threats immediately provide damage on the board. Well, Ral doesn't necessarily, but it does make things that will make damage, and also you have so many cheap spells. It's pretty easy to ultimate Ral and then send a bunch of these somewhere. Cards I want to try during the week. I wanted to try a plan that I saw somebody doing, and that would be a sideboard Sunderflock. And the reason why I wanted to do that is I think if you have this little game plan where you're gonna bring in Eddie Crabs and leave it and the stallions in the mirror, if you bring in Sunderflock, you kind of just like checkmate a lot of mirror positions where it's like, the crabs are gonna like be out, but they're not gonna die, and then you Sunderflock and you take the best parts of spell elementals. I'm not sure how many Sunderflocks you could really play, but just want to try that. Want to try different counter spells, negate, does naval stroke, some more another get out. But so far so good. I would recommend anybody who wants to try this deck, give it a try. Let me know like any like sideboarding thoughts. I'm gonna come up with a sideboard guide this week, and I'm pretty excited for DC. All right, thanks.